This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh, look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you've all had a good week. I've had a different kind of week this week. There wasn't a TED Excellence on Thursday because I did it on Monday. And thus it feels like a very long time since I've done anything on YouTube, which isn't true because I spent most of the week working on my very first true crime video, of which I am very self-critical of. But hey, it's there. If you'd like to watch it, let me know what you think. Trying out something different, flexing my editing skills such as they are, and who knows, maybe I'll do more in the future. But that's all aside from the point at hand. And the point at hand is our second episode of Learning to Be a Jedi. Justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Last week we checked out justice, and this week it will be equity. Again, hello everyone. Who is joining me for this wonderful adventure into the education of how to use the force of good and morality and virtue? Mike R., Matt Barnes, Kyle Mack, Zalbla, Kiefer Dam, Art 210, Ex Bubba Hotep, Some Namnyon Nation, Mike Savage, Blard. Good morning, everyone. So last week, what did we learn last week with the justice of the Jedi? Well, in order to understand what justice is, you have to know what an injustice is in order to compare one to the other. And according to our lesson last week, injustice is when there is a demographical disparity. That is an injustice, at least according to the American Institute of Architects, from whom we are learning how to be Jedi. And so how do you solve for a demographic disparity in the world of architecture, in employment, in schooling, in recruiting and retention? Well, from what I was able to glean from our first lesson, you have to implement racially and or gender specific discriminations into your recruiting, your promotion, your retention, your scholarship, etc. That's how you counter injustice, is by discriminating against people based on what they are. That's what I took. I mean, that is a very, very summary version of what we listened to last week. So if you'd like to hear the totality of the lesson from last week and you missed it, it's on my channel. I will, in due time, start up a playlist of all of these lessons to keep them archived for the future. But speaking of the future, we have before us lesson number 2 into equity. So editor's note, I have sliced off significant portions of this because there were sections in the beginning that were them just talking about events that the association was going to take part in, which went on for several minutes. So there's a very brief opening bit, and then there will be a jump into the actual content of the presentation. I also sliced off their own Q&A section at the end, which comprised another like 15 or 20 minutes of just them sitting around and waiting for people to ask questions. So there wasn't much there. So if you would like to see the entire thing for some reason in its totality, link is in the description to the original stream. But with that, a couple more hellos, and then I'll proceed. Subpar Genitalia, Atheist Icon, Spiral Girl, Hell Triangle. Good morning. All right then. So with that, I'll start off with a few seconds for sound test. I've boosted the sound a lot here because we have at least one person, perhaps multiple people, I'm not quite sure how it goes, on Zoom calls, Skype calls. So, your audio quality may vary. So let me know if you can hear this, and then we will proceed.
Good evening, everybody. And
good evening, everybody. You hear that? It's not going to be that clear and crisp going forward. This is just the host or the overseer or something. The person actually giving the presentation is on a different camera with a different microphone. Let's see. Kind of loud, says Kiever Dam. Yeah, trust me, it'll drop pretty quick. But I had to sort of compensate for the fact that the guy's web camera is a potato.
And welcome. My name is Colleen Stovall, and I'm the Director of Programs and Events for AIA Miami and also for MCAD. I'm really glad you're here tonight. This is going to be a really great program.
Mhm.
Should I introduce Craig Carr? There we go.
All right.
Principal at MC Harry and one of our directors. Your vice, what are you? What's your title?
All right, so I am first Vice President
That's
in
what I
Miami, which is President-elect for 2020. Thank you very much, Colleen.
Sure.
And we welcome everyone. Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, so that's the volume of how the guy is going to be going forward, the guy that was just talking there. So let me know if that's too loud. I can turn it down a little bit on my end, but depending on the circumstances, you may have to turn it down a little bit on your end.
This evening, let me share my screen. So again, good evening and welcome to part 2 of AIA Miami's 4-part series on justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion.
I am so excited.
As Colleen mentioned, my name is Craig Carr, and I'm a member of AIA Miami's EDI committee.
Mhm.
I'm also AIA Miami's president-elect, and will be very happy to serve you in 2022.
Ooh, this is the president, guys. Oh boy, the president himself. I think that's like a little less than a chancellor, if we're talking Jedi here. I'll probably drop some more nerd stuff about Jedi as we go if he ever talks about it again. Anyway.
I'm also the immediate past president of South Florida NOMA and the founder of the Black Architects in the Making program.
What?
We are very excited about this series because it gives us an opportunity
Yes.
to
To
share with our members and our allied members.
Your members and your allied members? Your allied members. So is there a distinction between being a member versus being an allied member? Did I hear that correctly?
More knowledge about the principles of J.E.D.I.
Yes, tell me of the principles of J.E.D.I. There is no chaos. There is peace. There is no ignorance. There is knowledge. Oh wait, that's different kind of J.E.D.I.
Organizations throughout the United States and indeed the world are paying closer attention to matters that relate to J.E.D.I.
Yes.
And this is because with better understanding of the issues, it will equip people and companies and firms or profession or community, and especially leadership within these organizations, to create the actions necessary to dismantle injustice and inequity.
Yes, dismantling injustice and inequity by imposing injustices and inequities. That's how you solve the problem. You throw napalm on a forest fire.
This is our firm belief that if we allow for more diverse and inclusivity within our profession, that we will create a more compassionate and respectful environment where people will not just survive, but where people and firms and organizations will thrive.
Not just survive, but thrive. A firm belief. They firmly believe this, which kind of goes along with one of the recent videos I put up where the thumbnail says, a firm believer. But that's a whole different thing. Actually, it's completely the same thing. It's just a different industry. But they don't talk about being a Jedi there. Oh, no. We're going to be Jedi here.
So to put it simple, it is about removing barriers and creating easier access to the retention of people within companies' profession.
That's what was said the last time. So I'm going to be curious to see if there's any real distinction between the justice element of J.E.D.I. and the equity element of J.E.D.I. Because if removing barriers and increasing equity or outcomes of equality is what equity is about in this section, There's not a whole lot of difference between it and the justice portion, but I guess we'll see.
And the community.
Mm-hmm.
So AIA Miami launched this J.E.D.I series last week.
Yes.
The series will be broadcast virtually weekly for 4 consecutive weeks. It started last week.
You don't say. Really? A 4-part thing over? Yeah, okay.
And it will be aired each Tuesdays evenings at 6.
Mm-hmm.
The Zoom link that you use to join this particular part 2 is the same Zoom link that we will use every Tuesday.
Okay.
Last week, Vanessa started off the series focusing on justice.
Yes, she focused on justice. Sort of. Not really. But she said she did.
It's about dismantling barriers to resources and opportunities in societies.
Yeah.
So that all individuals and communities can live a full and dignified life.
So long as they fall within certain racial and or gender demographics that make the American Institute of Architects look more diverse. That's what I gained from the last presentation. Yes.
This evening we'll discuss equity,
yes,
which is about putting in place resources on an as-needed basis to give access to a more equal outcome. Next week, Tuesday, which is August 24th, Maria Vanderman will discuss diversity, which is recognizing our differences as an advantage. And then the following Tuesday, August 31st, Nadine St. Louis will discuss inclusion,
yes,
which is how to encourage a sense of belonging.
I can't wait. We have 2 more of these ahead of us. But yes, so we want outcomes that are equal. Equality of outcomes. So in the architecture world, you want equality of outcomes. You're going to divvy up resources on a needs basis so that everyone achieves the same outcome. Who determines what someone needs? How do you meter that out? By what metric do you measure someone's personal need over someone else's? That'd be my question. I'm sort of setting a baseline as to what my curiosities are. Thank you, Bubba Hotep. I am reminded of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Get on with it! Listening to this guy. Yeah, there's a lot of preamble. I thought I had cut out all of the, preceding fluff to this, but apparently I didn't dig deep enough. I had thought that maybe when he put up the first card, he was actually going to start the presentation. So what do I know? Thank you, Bubba Hotep. All right, let's get on with it.
So let's get straight into it.
Yes, please. I'm glad we're synced up like that.
Our focus this evening is on equity.
Yeah.
Equity is about allocating resources to ensure everyone has access to the same opportunities.
No. You didn't say opportunities a second ago. You said same outcomes. Okay, get it straight. Well, which is it? Are you talking about equality of opportunity or equality of outcome? Because you said the one and then you switched. So choose. The
definition to remember about equity is that it provides access to what is needed to afford an individual or a certain group of people the opportunity for equal outcome.
The opportunity for equal outcome. Oh, so you're mixing them up. Okay, so everybody's got the same opportunity to achieve the same outcome. Is that how it works? Okay, I can't wait to see how you manage this. Uh-oh, what's this for Lexi? Rewind for is Lexi here? I got to come up with something special. I have this thing in mind. I got to think of something special for Lexi. It's got to be called like the Lexi Rewind or something. I don't know. I don't know what that is. Just came to my mind. It has to be some kind of branded thing just for Lexi. The Lexi Rewind. Yeah. I don't know what that means or what that would do, but that's what we're going to call it. That's what we're going to call it from now on. Okay. She shows up and suddenly time reverses itself. The Lexi Rewind.
The key word there is needed.
Yes,
for
needed.
Generations, advantages and barriers have been put in place, whether systemically or otherwise.
Yeah.
And many instances are now a normal part of our society. So much so that many of us sometimes don't even realize that there is an advantages that exist to certain section of our community and not to others.
Okay, well, do tell. How are you going to determine who needs what? By what metric will you determine who is in need?
There are so many barriers, and it has become so normalized in our society that we don't even realize that it is detrimental and problematic until something catastrophic happens that creates a tipping point, causing some type of upheaval that brings it to our attention.
Are we going to talk about George Floyd by any chance?
An example of this has been last year, and this has been happening for a long time, but it has brought to our attention because of the video phone capabilities that we now have that shows the routine execution of Black Americans in this country.
The routine execution. Oh, okay.
And that has caused action, and as unfortunate as it's been, it has brought about positive action. To be knowledgeable about any of these J.E.D.I issues.
Oh, okay. So those deaths were worthy because they were necessary sacrifices. Is that it? I mean, it's tragic, but it's good. Oh, okay. So martyrs. All right.
Is something that we must first recognize. That there are advantages and barriers that exist, and that we must consciously recognize them when they are placed in our stead. And then we take actions to dismantle them.
Okay. On the card, for those of you listening at home, there's a PowerPoint card up right now. I'm going to read this on the off chance he doesn't, so I might be jumping the gun, but whatever. Equity, allocating resources to ensure everyone has access to the same opportunities. Equity recognizes that advantages and barriers, the isms, exist. Okay, so setting aside that second sentence, it's talking about equality of opportunity, but insofar as the allocation of resources. So you take someone, you assess them on some basis, we haven't been told yet, although I can suspect, but on some basis you can assess them for what they need to reach the point, the starting line with everyone else. So you know by looking at them, I'm assuming, that they need X, Y, and Z resources in order to begin on an even keel with everyone else. And then also equity recognizes. So it's a philosophy. It's not just a word and sort of an abstract. It's also a philosophy. It recognizes that advantages and barriers, the isms, exist. Well, that's stunning and brave. Yes, isms exist. You're right. Boy, that's a rough one.
Action is the key word here, and you'll hear this often in this presentation, as we must realize that it took deliberate action to put them in place in the first place, and therefore we need serious counteraction on our part to remove them. Now, action is a verb. It is a doing word, as I was told when I was younger. This is not something that somebody else must do. This is something that we, you and I, must do something about this.
Okay, well, I am looking forward to probably not being provided an example of a barrier and what action the J.E.D.I process will instigate to destroy said barrier. Because we certainly didn't really get any of that the last time. So maybe this is the time for that.
All right.
Oh, here we go again. For those of you listening at home, we are starting off again with the now cliche cartoon of the three people standing and trying to watch the baseball game in various states of being blocked from doing so by a fence and or crates to stand on to look over said fence, and on and on.
All right, so we like to represent our thoughts graphically as people in this kind of profession. We find that illustrating our thoughts is clearer than trying to put it in words.
Yeah, it's always clearer to just oversimplify everything down to a cartoon rather than actually discussing the reality of the situation, putting up a cartoon, which doesn't actually represent the things we're going to be talking about, but fools you into thinking that this is a good thing.
And we've seen where this illustration of people watching a baseball game is used regularly and effectively.
Why are they standing on the field? I mean, if we're going to look at the cartoon as sort of a representation of reality, because apparently we're not going to discuss it with words, we have three people standing on the outfield, center outfield. I don't know all the terms. I'm not a baseball guy, but you get my meaning. Just standing on the grass. Why aren't they in the stands? Or are we not supposed to be looking at this literally?
In an ideal world, there would be no barriers, and that everyone, no matter your gender, your age, your size, your background, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, you'll be able to be afforded the same opportunities, and you'll be able to enjoy life.
Okay, well, setting the cartoon aside, yes, that is the ideal, that regardless of all of your non-determinative attributes, you have the same opportunity to achieve whatever you decide to work towards as anybody else. Is that a guarantee that you will? No. But could there be barriers preventing you from trying? No. So do tell us, oh speaker of the presentation, what barriers exist right now that cannot be countered by federal law, that need to be taken down? And then do tell me, in relation to your previous speaker, how what she was suggesting didn't make use of those same barriers in order to achieve quote-unquote justice. Because part one has me very confused as to where we're going with part two, since you're starting out part two almost exactly the same way she did.
However, in the real world, there are barriers causing some to be disadvantaged.
Yeah, they're in the real world. Yeah, in a utopian world, there's nothing standing in between anybody and anything from getting anywhere for any time at any place. You're right. You're right. Barriers. Are all barriers artificial? Here's my question. Are all barriers artificial? Are there barriers that have more to do with personal ability, personal talent, personal merit?
Making it unnecessarily difficult for everybody to access the necessities to excel in life. And not only are there barriers that, depending on your age, your gender, your sex, ethnicity, your background, your financial situation, that there are certain advantages afforded to some over others,
Yeah, you know what that's called? That's called life. There has not been a society in human history where that has not been the case. Some people have advantages over other people by dint of inherent ability, circumstance, luck, family, who they know, who they don't know, etc., etc. It's true. And it will always be so, because that is the world we live in. That's just reality. But tell me, by what method are you going to destroy these barriers, at least in the realm of the architecture industry?
I smile because I see a little note here that says that J.E.D.I principles are not just about Black people bitching about being left out of the party.
Okay. You saw a note? Okay, I don't know what notes he's talking about. Well, thanks for clearing that up, I guess.
It is more than that.
Oh,
because
it is? Okay.
The topic is associated not only with those who shout loudest. J.E.D.I is not only about race. So let us remember that.
J.E.D.I is not about race. Well, you better tell your colleague from the previous part, because just about every chart she showed broke things down by racial demographics. I think she said something to the same extent the last time. It's not just about race, but then she was letting us look at a chart that talked about nothing but race. Anyway, thank you again, Ex Bubba Hotep. To use a phrase as old as time, life isn't fair. Yeah. Now, I don't know, because he hasn't said yet, what barriers he is referring to. If he knows of something that is like written down in the law or in architecture, business policies or something where someone or some demographic, not group, demographic is being unjustly discriminated against, well, I'm all for eliminating such language, such barriers, and so on. But he's going to need to tell us, what are the barriers and how does J.E.D.I solve for those? I think I'm pretty sure I was asking that same question last time. So maybe it'll be part 2 where we get the answer.
J.E.D.I is about giving people access to the resources that they need. So some would suggest that we give everyone equal access to the same resources, and that will make everything accessible.
Well, you talked about equal opportunity. So if there is a closet full of office supplies, and with these office supplies, I could conceivably, I don't know, make a business plan. All right. I open the doors to the office supplies. There is no lock. There is no key. Everyone has the same opportunity to the resources within the closet to take them as they will and use them as they please to make a business plan. That is equal opportunity. You're not talking about equal opportunity when the image you are showing us is equality, and you have 3 people of 3 different heights, each standing on the same height box, with one person not able to see the baseball game and another person just being able to see over the end. That is equality of opportunity. And see, that's the thing. The people, the different sized people, represent ability or drive or passion or talent, all the sort of intangibles that make up an individual's attempt to achieve something versus someone else. But you keep talking about it as though that is unfair, that is an injustice. That is not. That's life. I am never going to be an NBA all-star basketball player. I don't have the height. I don't have the athletic ability. I don't have the interest. But if I go to the NBA, shall they make me an all-star player because I say I want to be? Should they provide me with all of the resources I need to be an NBA all-star player, even if I lack all of the other elements that would usually qualify someone for that position? Because that's what it sounds like you're telling me you want to have happen.
Well, we'll see how that does not really help. In the graphic that is shown right here to the right with that equality written at the bottom of it, we see that the spectators all have the same crate to overcome this barrier, which is represented by the fence shown here, but that does not really result in the same outcome.
Yeah, because you know what? The shortest guy is going to have to reach up, grab the edge of the fence, and pull himself up. He is at a disadvantage that cannot be overcome fairly, so he's going to have to work harder. That is life. I always get frustrated when I see these images because it just, you want to talk about like, well, let's do something visually because we don't want to talk in too many words. Yeah, when you oversimplify things like that, you leave behind reason. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Base a ball. There hasn't been Bera fair to me. Yogi Berra? It ain't over till it's over.
We'll get a little bit more into the difference between equality and equity further on.
Yes. Okay. You keep mixing these two things up. You're not talking about equality of opportunity. You're talking about equality of outcome. In the last image he's showing, everybody is at the exact same height because each person is provided a box that or two that raises them to an equitable height with the tallest person. Right? So even in the absence of personal ability, merit, drive, passion, whatever else, somehow everybody ends up at the same spot. That is your goal. Your goal is equality of outcome, not equal opportunity to resources, right? Because if there was equal opportunity to resources, then the tallest guy would be standing on 3 boxes, wouldn't he?
In the broadcast here. But the last image that you're seeing here illustrates how the allocation of resources based on need is made.
Again, I am dying to know how you are going to assess need in the realm of architecture.
To ensure that each person, based on their need, has access to the same opportunities. This is equity.
No. Opportunity is walking up to the baseball game. Outcome is seeing the baseball game. Everybody there has equal opportunity. You have manufactured an equality of outcome. This is why these cartoons are stupid.
So the taller person is able to see over the fence. They don't necessarily need any type of resource to afford the same opportunity that the others require.
No, it's not opportunity. It is outcome. The outcome is seeing over the fence. The opportunity is approaching the fence. Everybody approaches it at the same pace. The outcome is, do they get to see the ball game? Stop confusing these two things together. I know I'm talking into the ether, but that's why this is frustrating.
You know, some may need some more help than the other because of their particular situation. And that is the difference between equality and equity.
No. Oh, okay, if you say so.
If we were to leave you guys with one thing for this particular series,
yes,
it is the understanding that that only when we solve the problem of injustice and inequality, we will stand the real chance of achieving sustainable diversity and inclusion.
I think that was the same quote-unquote equation we saw in the last part. Still doesn't make any sense, just abstractly. But you have to first identify what are the injustices, what are the inequities. Not just saying that they exist, because you're right, injustice and inequities exist in the world. Hopefully, we're going to talk specifically about the architecture institution or the institution of architecture or something, and what specifically are the barriers, because you are supposedly solving for architecture using the J.E.D.I method. And I don't recall that we ever got anything all that specific in the last presentation, except something to do with like scholarships or internships or something, maybe. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Sorry, Scribe. Roberto Clemente always said, base a ball has been bara good to me. Guess my wordplay has dated me. I see. Thank you, Matt Barnes. I am not a baseball lingo quote aficionado, except for like the classic ones. So base a ball has been bara good to me. Okay. I feel like I'm saying Adonis Bartolote. All right. So we're going to solve for terribleness by adding justice and equity together to get diversity and inclusion together, or something.
Let me repeat that. Only when we solve the problem of injustice and inequity.
I can't wait to hear your solution for solving injustice and inequity. You will be a quazillionaire if you somehow solve for injustice and inequity, period.
Will we stand a chance to achieve sustainable diversity and inclusion? And the level of effort that we put into dismantling injustice and inequity will result in a level of improvement that we will see in our firms, in our profession, in our community, and indeed in the country.
Well, tell me something. I mean, if I don't want to put the effort into it, okay, right? I don't have the same, enthusiasm for the subject as you do. Are you going to provide me the resources necessary to get me to the point where I get to the same outcome that you do in this fight for eliminating injustice and inequity? Because, I got other things to do, but certainly because I say so, you should give me all of the same outcome that you would get out of it, right? Or maybe I'm overstepping.
Sustainable outcome demands purposeful action. We must do something about what we see around us.
Yes.
So action, action, action.
Yes.
I'm willing to bet that the people here today, all 18 of us, are interested in knowing more about J.E.D.I matters.
Well, hey, hell, I'm not even in the original group, and I'm interested in knowing more about J.E.D.I matters. I spent almost 2 hours last week wanting to know more about J.E.D.I matters, and I got very little out of it except some very familiar rhetoric that I hear all over the place. So please, I want to know, what action can I take to become a J.E.D.I? I've been asking that question since I was like 5 or 6, I think. Not that anybody's co-opting the word of J.E.D.I or anything. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. Why would you even want to watch the game from there? Not a very safe place to watch, even for J.E.D.I. My new buzzword. That's going to be the title of my book. J.E.D.I. The Search for Diverclusion. Something like that. Thank you, Johnny. Okay. Action to become a J.E.D.I. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna zoom in on this a little bit because the way that the video was originally produced, it was like zoomed out like this, I suppose. So let's see if I can. I can't, can I? Nope. All right. Well, I tried. Oh, well. We'll continue.
That's the reason why we're here. I'm also willing to bet that most, if not all of you, already know quite a bit about J.E.D.I.
Hey, I know a whole hell of a lot about the J.E.D.I. Like way too much. But are we talking legends, or are we talking like, the sequel trilogy stuff? Because I'm more of an expanded universe guy. So, and then of course you got sort of the nebulous area of what's in the Old Republic, the MMO. So, I mean, I could spend a long time talking about what I know about the J.E.D.I. I don't think that's what we're going to be talking about. Thank you again, X Bubba Hotep. He has said action multiple times with emphasis. Has he given a single action to take? No. But I keep interrupting him, so I'm just going to let him run.
Right. We want to be part of the solution, and so we educate ourselves. In some instances here, we're preaching to the choir, so to speak. And this series is not just about talk, by the way.
Oh, isn't it?
We're going to be looking at real action, what is going on right now in companies around us who are practicing J.E.D.I principles and the type of results that they're getting as a result of that. So,
okay, note for the future, don't let your video windows cover up your PowerPoint cards, because anyway.
What is the recommended steps towards purposeful action?
I don't know.
Firstly, we need to inform ourselves about issues and identify the problem you'd like to tackle.
Yes.
We need to be very resolute about the solution.
What is the problem?
We need to keep it simple. We need to keep it accomplishable so we don't frustrate ourselves.
Okay, well, I can't know if the solution is quote unquote accomplishable unless I know what the problem is, because you say we're going to solve murder, not solve a murder, but just cure murder from society forever. Yeah, it is a problem that, everybody would love to address. I don't know if the solution is necessarily achievable. accomplishable, sorry. So you have to tell me, what are the problems, what are the barriers that you want to destroy using the J.E.D.I method?
Step one.
Yes.
Information is key.
Yes.
The second step is, don't be passive. We must get involved.
Yes.
And things don't happen by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We must get involved in our firms, get involved in the profession,
Yes.
get involved in our community.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good chance that nothing will happen if we sit back, fold our arms, and wait for somebody else to do it.
Okay.
The third step is to surround yourself with like-minded people and make a plan.
Like-minded people? I don't want any counterpoints or I don't know, diversity of perspectives and opinions? Oh, okay. So you want me to build an echo chamber? Got it.
You alone many times cannot fix the problem.
What problem?
We need other people to be able to share ideas, to be looking at things from different perspectives.
No. No, you don't want different. You just said like-minded people. Which is it? Before it was equality of outcome, but then equality of opportunity, but then they're the same thing. And then you say you want to surround yourself with like-minded people, but you want different perspectives. Jesus.
So we can attack the problem in a comprehensive way. Pooling our thoughts together and brainstorming the solution is better for us to come up with a more comprehensive solution, and it becomes easier and more accomplishable. As we say, more hands make the work lighter.
I think it's many hands make for light work or something like that, but sure. Okay. Are we going to get to what the problem is?
The fourth step that we're advocating is to implement the plan after you have make it. We must be strategic in how we do this.
Do what?
We may not be able to solve the world's problem.
What?
But we can certainly solve, certain problems 1, 2 at a time.
What?
And
what? Come. Please tell me that after you've gone over these steps, you're going to give us an example, an active example of something taking place in the architecture industry right now that either has been addressed by the J.E.D.I process or is being addressed or could be addressed. And walk us through how to solve this problem using these steps. Please tell me you're going to give us an example.
We can certainly influence our immediate circles around us, whether it is in our firm, whether it is in our local chapter of the AIA or NOMA, whether it is in our whatever organization that we are a part of. We must implement the plan that we have talked about at some stage.
Plan for
Action
what?
must happen on the ground.
Okay.
And finally, we need to follow up. And that shouldn't be access the plan, it should be assess the plan.
Oh, okay, because I was like, for those of you at home, the 5 steps as written are: information is key, get involved, make a plan, implement the plan, and lastly, access the plan. Except that whoever did this didn't check their work before. It should say assess the plan. Shouldn't you, I don't know, assess the plan before you implement it? I mean, you can assess the outcome to see if you achieved what the plan was meant to achieve, but assessing the plan after you've already started it? Gosh, that sounds like something somebody might do when trying to withdraw their forces from a country and then being surprised by the outcome.
From time to time, we need to take corrective action as we see necessary if the plan is going as we anticipated.
How about assess the results? maybe that makes more sense to me. Maybe you should alter, not only revise number 5 to have the correct word, but also assess the results. Not assess the plan. I mean, I guess technically you would be assessing the effectiveness of the plan, but just for clarity's sake, assess the results, maybe.
Fine. But many times we need to look at ways to improve what is happening.
Yes.
And take corrective action.
Sure.
So we talk about informing ourselves.
Okay, and again, just for reference, he's put up a bunch of charts on the screen. And what do these charts involve? What do these charts concern? Well, they're a little fuzzy because the image is reduced in quality. But the ones that I can read clearly talk about demographics based on race and ethnicity. So what were you saying earlier about how this whole thing's not about race?
And I'm not going to go through each of these graphs. They're available in the resource section.
Yeah, and I think we saw them last week. I think they're the exact same graphs that were shown to us last week. I'm still waiting to see exactly what sets this section of the whole training regimen apart from the first section.
Of this. And Vanessa went through quite a bit of this last week.
She did.
And I know most of you guys have seen these graphs and you know what they're all about.
Then why bring them up?
In short, NCARB and J.E.D.I does statistics specifically about schools of architecture and emerging professionals, how well they're doing in school, how well they're doing after school in the AXP program.
If everybody knows it, why are you repeating it?
Their AREs. The problem is that after licensure or in the actual profession itself, whether it is in architecture, engineering, planning, interior design, it is really hard to get information and statistics about demographics and breakdown of people within the profession itself.
I thought this wasn't just about race. And if you're lacking information to make a determination, where is the justification coming from to say that there's a problem? How are you going to identify the barriers if you don't even know what it is that you need to know?
Yes, the information is out there, but you really have to search hard and long for that information.
And you just decided not to? I'm confused.
Why is this necessary? Because we need a control. We need to know where we are. And if we are implementing measures, then how do we measure that?
Well, measure what? You have a whole bunch of charts in front of us that are measuring, as far as I can tell, the thing that most concerns you, and that is racial demographics. So I don't know. You still have not described the problem first, or a problem, a barrier. Are we going to get to that?
So that we know if we're improving and moving in the correct direction.
What is the correct direction? What is the ideal outcome? You need to tell me. You haven't said.
We need to make sure that we impress the importance on our local chapters and on AIA National and NOMA National, IIDA, etc., to create the statistics so we can measure our progress.
Create the statistics? I hope you mean like actually find the data and assess, not like conjure them out of whole cloth. Well, okay, so of what use are the statistics and the graphs that you're already showing us? What does that tell you about where you are in regards to whatever you see as the goal versus the problem? Why isn't this enough to at least give us an idea?
And have a better understanding of what is going on. We must inform ourselves about diversity matters, matters of equity, and so forth in our profession.
Okay.
So my own experience, and there are others here in our group.
Please don't tell me you're going to use a personal anecdote as the basis of your talk.
This evening, that can tell you that there are lots of students that we have encountered, whether it is in the K through 12 program, and even some people within college themselves who have no idea what the architecture profession is.
Okay. So
They have lived in a house, they have gone to school, they have gone to church, mosques, they have been to malls, cinemas, etc. But they have never really thought about architecture in a way that suggests somebody actually sat down to design the place around us.
So most people in K through 12 and even college just kind of waltz through life thinking that buildings and structures just kind of sprouted out of the ether. That's their automatic thought. In the absence of knowing about the concept of architecture, they look at a brick building and go, my oh my, that is one great brick house. I wonder how much water and earth and seed were needed to make that house grow. What?
And so one of the action that we have taken not only here in Miami, but in Orlando, etc., is we have created programs where we're going into communities where children live, learn, and play, and we're telling them about architecture in a very passionate way.
Okay, and setting my somewhat facetiousness aside for a second, there's nothing wrong with trying to promote your profession and your vocation. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I mean, I know there is a thing called architecture, right? I'm old enough to have the concept relatively firmly in mind. I am not an architect, but if you ask any kid, playing these days with Minecraft, they have some idea of what it is to build, design, etc. So the concept is kind of already there. Legos kind of does that. Lincoln Logs used to do that. Erector sets used to do that. The concept of designing and building something is kind of a part of our culture and has been forever. But that aside, yes, the profession of architecture, you want to go into schools and promote the profession of architecture, see if you can get someone interested in it and be passionate about it as they grow and go through school. Great. No problem. Fine. What does that have to do with all these charts dealing with racial demographics again? What does this have to do with J.E.D.I again? Is your going into schools a resource that you are providing? I mean, I guess it is, or at least information about, but what?
So that they understand that we love what we do and we think what we do is important, and
Great.
They too can be a part of that.
Good for you.
So educating students about architecture is important for us to improve the demographics that is so woefully lacking in our profession.
Whoa! Whoa. The demographics that are woefully lacking. So never mind talent, never mind passion or skill or imagination. Okay, I know. I'm glad that you were so blunt. I really am glad that you were so blunt. I thought we would be doing a whole, couched language dance this entire time. Well, thanks for clearing that up. I really appreciate it.
We have heard that 2%, less than 2% of the architecture population consists of Black professionals, and of that, less than 0.4% consists of Black females.
Okay, all right. So there's the problem, right? We've taken this long. We've taken nearly 20 minutes for him to actually articulate something that he considers to be a problem. Demographic disparity. That is the problem. Okay, how do you solve for demographic disparity in the architecture industry? Or profession, I guess that's a better way of putting it. Industry sounds like, you're kind of producing architects out of a machine or something, but maybe you are. Anyway, the architecture profession, the problem is demographic disparity. All right, then tell me, Mr. President, how do you propose to solve for demographic disparity in the architecture profession?
Right. So, we need to do better about that. And programs like BAM, Black Architects in the Making program in Miami, in Orlando, in Gainesville, and soon to be in other places are doing some fantastic job in going into communities to tell students about architecture. Again, action. Action is important. You and I can do something about our concerns, and that is happening at certain level, and we're encouraged by that.
Okay, so the action necessary is to have architecture professionals or those involved in the industry pick out specific, I don't know, schools or areas of Miami or Florida, wherever, based on race to promote the profession of architecture. Because the problem is demographic disparity. Certain demographics can be ignored in this effort because we already have too many of them. So instead, we're going to focus our interest, promotional, recruiting efforts to people based on their demographics. Is that what I'm hearing? Because that sure sounds like what you're saying.
Not only is BAM doing that, but there are other programs that are doing similar things. Programs like the ACE program by AIA, Hip Hop Architecture, Project Pipeline by NOMA, etc. All of those are great. And if you're a part of that, kudos to you. Continue and do more.
I have no idea what those other organizations or initiatives are that he mentioned. No idea. I have no reference, and he's probably not going to give us any.
So organizations like AIA and NOMA, IID, etc. We also need to help to encourage students who are more likely to fall out of school because of one reason or the other, whether it's through finances, whether it's through lack of encouragement, lack of mentorship. AIA, NOMA, IIDA, Planning Institute, Engineering Institutes need to reach out to these schools and offer mentorship to these students.
Okay, the class part of it, I guess I could get if you're going to like lower income areas of the city or whatever and trying to, okay, how do you determine whether or not a student's going to be someone who's going to, give up or drop out or something else? Because whether or not someone has or lives within a particular tax bracket is fairly identifiable. What tells you about those other elements of a student versus any other student?
Also offer scholarships to these students to assist wherever possible. Scholarships are extremely important and should act as incentives to encourage students to perform better and to maintain above grade GPAs and to just do well, to stay in school.
Offer scholarships to who? People within a certain, income bracket? I mean, okay, but that's not the problem you said you were trying to solve for. You weren't saying we need more people in the architecture profession who come from various income brackets. That's not what you said. That's not what's being indicated here with the chart you have in front of us and what you've been talking about.
To finish, the attrition rate is really terrible, especially in minority communities. And then after leaving school, these graduates need also to be incentivized to sit and pass the ARE and other licensing requirements, such as
incentivized beyond their own interest or passion for the profession. I mean, how many incentives do you need to put in front of someone before you say, maybe this person isn't a fit for our profession? Right? I mean, if I have no interest in your profession, but you keep incentivizing me, keep putting carrots in front of me just to keep going with it, are you really going to end up with somebody who's giving you quality output? Or is it just sort of a Potemkin village of a professional? Either someone wants to do this or they don't. They're interested or they're not. I mean, unless their parents are forcing them into it or something. I'm thinking like, people who want their kids to become doctors or lawyers or something, and that's the only thing that'll pass muster, tiger parents and stuff like that. What kind of incentives? To whom are you offering these incentives? What qualifies them for these incentives, for these scholarships? You need to give specifics, because your own steps that you mentioned, why don't you outline for us the plan, Well, Hal, first of all, you've already told us what the problem is. So what is the plan to solve the problem? You're putting the tools in front of us. You're not telling us who we're supposed to be handing these tools to.
As the ARE. Incentives like reimbursing students after they've, not students, but emerging professionals after they've passed the exam.
Okay, so if I pass the exam, you will reimburse me for my costs to take the exam. Didn't we talk, was that last week? Because I feel like in a recent, maybe it wasn't last week, but there was a, oh yeah, that was a couple of streams back, a couple of Sunday streams back, where they were talking about the clinicians, and they were talking about how if the employees went to the effort of taking the certification tests and things like that, that the company itself would pay for their certification classes, so that the cost of certification and taking the tests would not be a barrier to someone advancing in the company. And I thought, okay, that's perfectly fine, right? Oh, and they give them the time off from work to do the test if they need to, so that didn't become a barrier as well. I was like, that's great. That's great. Someone would be taking the opportunity presented to better themselves and thus benefit the company. And the company would benefit in the long run by having a better trained individual. Okay, you want to incentivize people to take the exams and so on. Fine. Great. Once they get there. But that's not a solution to the problem. Right? Unless, I guess you say, well, the barrier to them taking the test is the cost. Well, what if they don't pass the test? What if they go to the effort of taking the test and they don't pass? You know, and let's say, for the sake of argument, not because they're a lazy student or they don't care, but you know, they just missed the mark. Are they still footed the bill? What happens then?
Is something that will encourage students to take the exam. This should be offered at all various levels. The American Societies of Engineers need to get more involved where that is concerned for their engineers. So too, I've advocated for AIA, NOMA, and IIDA.
Is this reimbursement specific to particular demographics, or is it open to all students? How is this incentive going towards solving the problem of the demographic disparities that you cite as, well, the problem? I mean, I could imagine some things, but I don't know. I can't, I'm not drawing the line in my own head right now.
And then there is this major problem that was identified by the graph that you see on your left here.
Yeah, the same graph that we saw last week. Is there one presentation in 4 parts? Because I feel like I'm just having deja vu over and over and over again, and I don't think there's a glitch in the matrix. But again, for those of you at home, there is the line graph with the peaks and valleys that we saw last week that, if you can believe it, again, is split up along racial lines. Literally. So, yes.
Which is really about entry into the profession. You know, what happens after you have left college and now you're in the working world? You have incurred debt that is crippling. And attaining a professional degree in architecture and in many other professions is really crippling to a significant amount of graduates. Their likelihood after leaving school to own a home as quickly as their parents and grandparents did, to own a car, to progress as their parents and grandparents did, is way more unlikely today.
Okay, well then how would you solve for that? What is the AIA going to do to solve for someone's student debt if they're pursuing an architecture career? Why bring this up unless you're going to give us a solution?
As it did 20, 30, 40 years ago. You know, the student loan debt in the United States has reached a staggering $1.2 trillion.
Yeah.
And the average graduate will need to repay more than $35,000.
Yeah.
Vanessa last week mentioned that,
yes, she did.
In particular, African American females, Black females, are owing way more money than their counterpart, anybody else, and they're
So, okay, so how are you going to solve for that? I think I asked that same question last week. Okay, this is the problem. How does J.E.D.I solve this? How does the equity portion of this regime solve for this? What is AIA going to do using the principles of the J.E.D.I to solve this problem? Otherwise, why bring it up? And I think Chicago Mike, isn't crippling debt an issue for students regardless of race? No, Mike, it's yeah, or gender, says Chicago Mike. Yeah, I mean, certainly, I'll for the sake of stipulation, I'll take the graph at its word. There is a disparity in demographics as to who owes more on average than others. I'll accept that for the sake of things. All right. So why is that disparity there? Is the architecture profession inherently racist? Is student debt inherently racist? And okay, and let's say that it is, because that's apparently where we're going. How does J.E.D.I solve for that?
There is a reason for that. We need to be able to rescue people who are in that situation.
Oh, you're going to rescue people who are in the situation of crippling student debt? How?
And it is up to you and I. We are the people who make up the system.
You and me, we make up the system? Wow. Okay. Well, heck, pardon me while I go find that light switch that turns off student debt.
That create this kind of injustice. And it is up to you and I to look at individual needs, which is about equity.
What?
And allocate resources to these individuals.
Okay, I don't have any resources. You're talking about the architecture profession. All right, what resources are you, president of the AIA, going to divvy up and distribute in order to solve for this problem in your local community or industry? You tell me. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't known what you're talking about this entire time, because specificity is like, I don't know, garlic to vampires around here.
So that they can have similar outcome to their, Black male counterpart, and similar to our white counterpart, similar to our Hispanic, Indian, and Asian counterpart.
Okay, so you have the solution to bring student debt as concerns African American females down to equitable levels amongst all other demographics. You have that solution, do you? Okay, lay it on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Let's look at some action items here.
Okay.
You can see this graph showing the actual cost of tuition as it relates to the cost of inflation, the rate of inflation over the years.
Okay, and again, guys, I apologize. This is the quality of the image. I can only barely make out, if that, some of the text on this graph. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to rely on him to tell me what it is I'm looking at. I can't give you any more specifics.
This is terrible, and
I agree.
There are some action items. I'm not going to go through all of this. The action items that I'm going to suggest here.
What? Wait. You show us a graph of inflation versus, and then you just jump to the next slide where it's just stock photo of kids giving thumbs ups. What is the action item?
Is number one, federal and state government funding.
Federal and state government funding. Okay, so the federal and state government is supposed to pay the student debts of people based on their race and gender? Or are we not still on the student debt crisis? What?
Has been reduced significantly over the years. And a lot of this is based on political ideology.
You don't say. Allocation of resources based on political ideology. Wow.
The two major parties in the United States have very different ideas about student debt.
No.
The debt reduction and debt forgiveness. The action I'm recommending is pretty simple. Inform yourselves about the representatives that you're voting for and vote on the issues that confront you.
Gee, thanks, Mr. President. I never would have thought of such a thing before. What part in the J.E.D.I process does my right to vote fall in?
Do not sit idly by and allow others to determine your future.
Do you have any understanding of how representative politics works? If I vote and I lose, I have to let others decide my future. Even if I vote and win. I mean, there are a whole lot of people having buyer's remorse right now about the most recent election, but we're still beholden to the people in charge.
Vote.
Yes.
Politics and policies goes hand in hand. And there are politicians that advocate for equity. And then there are politicians who could not care less. Inform yourself about who you're voting for. Understand your interest. And vote for those who are supporting your interests.
It's true. I do take that action every time the election comes around. Here's a question. What if my idea of how to solve something that you consider a problem runs counter to your idea of how to solve that problem? What happens then? What do you say to me then? If I vote the way you don't want me to vote or would prefer me to vote? Where does that fall in the J.E.D.I plan? How does that achieve equality of outcome? What? I'm honestly bewildered how we got here all of a sudden to voting. We just completely dodged talking about what's going on in the architecture profession or what identifiable barriers there are to achieve the goals that they want. Even if it is demographics, okay, I'll accept that. I don't think that's necessarily a healthy way to look at it, but okay, you see that as the problem. How do you solve for that problem? Now we're on to voting. Okay.
And politicians listen to their constituents for the most part, especially when it comes on for time to vote.
Sure.
Make your voices heard.
Yes.
The squeaky wheel is usually the one that gets attended to. Squeak.
Is that step 5 in the J.E.D.I process? We pluralize it, J.E.D.Is, justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, squeak.
Raise your voices and make sure that you are heard.
Yeah.
Not just as individuals, but as a group.
Group? Which group? The AIA? Are you talking to all of the 18 people watching you right now?
We deserve the leaders that are elected.
We deserve the leaders that are elected? I mean, okay, if you mean like you get what you pay for kind of thing. Okay, I suppose.
And if you are not part of the electing process, if you don't vote, then you're going to be given leaders that other people choose for you.
Do you know how voting and winning and losing works? If I vote for guy A, but guy B wins, he's going to be in charge that I didn't want. I lost. What, did you have the same attitude when Trump was in power? Like what?
Another item.
Yeah.
Universities sometimes inflate college tuition costs to shape their student bodies.
You don't say.
Right? Meaning that the actual cost that is the sticker price is not exactly what the cost is for education.
Oh, okay. So you think that education should be an at-cost pricing scheme? You know, essentially, all the schools should be nonprofits. Okay, that's an interesting idea. Or you know, the better colleges should be. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, what makes Harvard so much better than someplace else, right? Well, it costs more. It must be better. That's always kind of the American idea on things. The more expensive thing must be the better thing. All right. So at-cost nonprofit schools, if I'm interpreting you correctly.
But they then offer certain student demographic, maybe certain genders, etc., discounts. We must understand that. We must make sure that we align ourselves in a particular position to go after these discounts. Never ever pay sticker price.
Okay. Are you talking about affirmative action? And I'm not being insincere here. I don't know what he means. Discounts based on demographics. Are you talking about, like, you know, specialized scholarships? Are you talking about affirmative action? I mean, I can assume. So are you against affirmative action, or are you for expanding? I'm confused. And isn't discrimination on the basis of demographics something you're trying to solve for? I know it's the complete opposite, but based on what he said at the beginning versus what he's actually saying should be done, yeah.
And colleges are at that stage now where you can actually, negotiate what you pay for tuition.
Really? I mean, if that's true, I'm completely outside the box on that one. I could have negotiated for how much I paid for tuition at my college, and that would have been something. Thank you, Andrew Joyner, for the ha 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 dog cat fox. Oh, dog cat fox.
Wowie, wow.
Thank you, Andrew. And just for you, a very suggestive wowie wow. Right, dog cat fox? Wowie wow. Yes. Okay, so I can negotiate tuition prices somewhere. Okay, tell me what college that is, or what colleges do that. I'd love to know. Hell, I'll promote those colleges to people just free of charge. I mean, I guess it depends on the quality of the college, what you're negotiating for, but yeah, where can you negotiate tuition?
My recommendation is to study hard.
Your recommendation is to study hard. Well, what if I study hard and I still fail the test? Are you going to, cheat on my behalf and give me the resources I need, like an actual corrected test, so I can, have an equal outcome? What if I study real hard and don't make it? What if I'm the short guy behind the fence? What are you going to do to make sure I achieve it anyway?
To be purposeful about going after and winning scholarships.
Winning scholarships? No, give me the scholarship. Did you not look at your own cartoon? You need to give me all the boxes necessary to see over the fence. Winning something? Studying hard? Why should I bother?
And, I'm going to say something here. I know I'm going to get flack for this.
Okay.
But do not be too woke.
What? You cite racial demographics and the disparities thereof as the problem you are attempting to solve for. You are suggesting, as did your colleague last week, that resources, opportunities, etc. be allocated based on race, and you're telling me not to be too woke? Okay, you know what? This isn't even a TEDx.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
to identify a particular ethnic group. I've seen where Black students have disqualified themselves from scholarships because they refuse to identify as Black.
Okay, so just so I get this, you are encouraging students to take advantage of racial opportunities. You're encouraging students to make their race a subject of assessment for entrance into college. So you are diminishing personal merit versus demographic window dressing for the college's sake. And you're telling me not to get too woke. Woke is making your racial identity an irrelevancy? Is my last name Van Winkle? And was I unknowingly named Rip at some point? Did I sleep through an entire de-evolution of the idea of wokeness? Now woke means ignoring race as an identity, race as a factor in assessment. What? I don't know what to say. I really don't know.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Continue.
Even though they are quite capable of qualifying as such.
No. Wait. If they are capable of qualifying in the absence of having to specify their race, then why are you encouraging them to specify their race? Which is it?
Everybody has the right to identify who they want to identify as, but are you disqualifying yourself by identifying yourself otherwise?
Am I disqualifying myself by not identifying my race because I know or suspect that my race will give me an advantage in selection for college? I don't know how to respond to that.
Universities also listen to student leadership, and many of the ideas that are developed in colleges started off as a result of initiatives made by students. The action plan here is to become involved.
I got involved, and I was able to create something special at my college. It was a BDSM club, but hey, whatever works.
Advocate for more equitable policies for tuition. There are several colleges, and Ivy Leagues are well known for this, that depending on your household income, right, you can actually get a significant reduction in your tuition.
Okay, income situation, a family's wealth situation is a circumstance that says nothing about someone's ability. That is a circumstantial consideration. And that makes sense. Colleges offering scholarships to people that show merit but do not have the means by which to achieve, say, going to college X, Y, or Z. Okay, that makes sense because someone has shown that they have the ability to succeed. They just don't have the money. And money should, in those situations, I don't think necessarily be an insurmountable barrier. So that's fine. That's fine. Why are you encouraging people to make race a deciding factor in college admissions? Why are you discouraging students from applying to a college purely on their merits and not try to lean on their skin color for an advantage? What?
Not all colleges offer this, but I know that Ivy League colleges do from personal experience. And so if your college does not, and you're an alumni of that college, you owe it to the students that are coming after you to go and advocate for that type of policy for your college, for the sake of the future students coming out of that college.
Examples of workplace equity. Okay, I might let this run a little bit over my usual hour and a half time, because if he's actually going to start giving us something specific, we are over halfway through this thing. I'm not going to go all the way through it, but I'll give him a chance here to give me some examples. So if I run past the hour and a half mark, and I probably will, that's why.
All right. So, you know, I'm finished with the preaching right now.
You're finished with the preaching? I'll believe it when I see it.
Somebody say amen. We're going to go into examples of workplace equity.
You should have started with this. This should have been your opener. Everything that we heard prior to this was just a regurgitation, in so many words, of last week.
We're going to talk from a first-hand experience here.
Okay.
I am the principal of one of the principals of MC Harry and Associates, and I'm also privileged to know other firms and what's going on in other local firms.
Okay, so you're the guy. You know what's going on. You've got your thumb on the pulse of architecture firms. All right. So I will stipulate to your expertise.
And so I'm going to discuss this evening some of the equitable practices that are happening within firms such as MC Harry and others.
I wish I had known that this is where the presentation started. I would have skipped all of that. For all of the exasperating entertainment it provided, I would have rather started here. Good Lord.
And show how an equitable principle is put in practice so that the firm in general benefits.
Okay. I'm ready. My body is ready.
There's a Boston consulting group that conducted a study, and that study showed that a more diverse and inclusive firm is likely to bring in almost 20% higher revenues as a result of their EDI practices.
So just based on, and again, I have to go on the definition you've provided, based on race and gender, more money will come in. Not based on skill, not based on experience, just having people who look different all on its own will improve the bottom line. Okay. Well, then tell me, Mr. President, by what mechanisms should a company employ, so to speak, to achieve this end? What should a company or firm do to ensure that they possess diversity? And then, after you've explained that, tell me how that policy or initiative or practice aligns with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Just tell me, oh, tell me true.
Let me repeat that.
Yeah, please.
Firms that practice EDI principles are more likely to be profitable than firms who do not.
Where's the J? E.D.I? What about the J part? This is J.E.D.I, not E.D. E.D.'s that pair of glasses that Iron Man left to Spider-Man.
I can testify that this is true.
Testify!
As an owner of a firm that practice EDI principles.
Okay.
Now, I want for us to remember this idea.
Oh, God.
The differences between equality and equity. Remember that equality is not the same as equity.
You're right. They're not the same, but you keep conflating them together somehow in some weird alchemy. So why do I bother?
And that companies that strive in the workplace knows the difference between the two. Remember what we talked about? It is not about providing equal access to everybody, but everyone has their own individual need. Every group has their own individual need. Every person have their own individual need. And
you said it was about equal. Am I okay? Have I just lost my brain? Where our speaker last week and he at the beginning of this talked about equal access to resources, equal opportunity, and equality of outcome, all these things in one big bowl. What are you talking about? It's not about people. Oh, good.
must be treated accordingly and be given access to resources according to that particular individual need.
How do you determine need? Who assesses need on an individual basis? How does that work? You said you're going to give us examples. Give me an example.
Equity is, sorry, let me repeat that. Equality.
You have to know the difference between these two things or else you're not going to succeed. Equity is, equality is
about providing the same meal full of meat for
What?
everybody,
What?
knowing fully well that there are some vegans and vegetarians in the group.
What? What?
While equity, on the other hand, attempts to identify the specific needs and requirements of different people with different needs and provide those needs.
Yeah, but the guy that eats more meat than the guy who doesn't is going to have better iron content in his diet than the guy who doesn't. He's not going to have an equality of outcome from the vegan guy or vice versa. What?
It's not about race only.
It's not about race only? Oh, okay. Well, how much is it about race? Tell me the percentage about race it is, and then let me show you the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
It's about ethnicity, nationality,
Oh,
age,
yeah.
gender.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you're listing off all the specific words in the law. Tell me more.
Sexual orientation.
Uh-huh.
It involves a lot of different things.
Yeah. So these are factors on which you decide who gets what. Wow. And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I am always left speechless by this kind of bluntness, by this kind of absolute transparent admission. I mean, if you watch my videos for any period of time, if you've watched the diversity imperative playlist on my channel, from my earliest videos forward, you can see, or listen to, I guess, the evolution of the falling away of beating around the bush when it comes to what words are being used and how things are being described. It is becoming more and more acceptable to just say it out loud. You need to assess people, their needs, their value, and so on these elements. Also, by the way, never mind federal law. Golly. Okay.
We are people who are made up of different needs and requirements.
And you can tell who needs what based on their race, gender, ethnicity, age, and so on. You can just tell. So two people of the same age, you know what they need. Two people of the same gender, you know what they need. Two people of the same race, you know what they need. Okay, how do you determine this? What philosophy do you employ to determine this on site?
And equity is about providing what is needed for different people. So let's talk a little bit about something I'm very familiar with.
I'm waiting for your familiar examples. The title of these cards is Examples of Workplace Equity. Give me an example. At this point, I'll take one because I want to get out of this. I'm losing my brain listening to this. But I want to have, hopefully, at least one active example I can chew on.
So the very first slide here shows some of the members of MC Harry a few years ago.
Okay.
About 10 years ago, talking from personal experience, the principals of MC Harry realized that one day they were going to retire from the firm.
Yeah.
And so they were reminded by one of their employees who attended an ownership transition seminar that the process of ownership transition is relatively simple. And this is not strange to the firm ownership, because 30 years earlier in the firm's history, its founder, Milton Carlisle Harry, hence the name MC Harry, looked within the firm for leadership and found it in Jim Pearsall and Tom Carlson.
Okay.
Not to overcomplicate the history here, but pretty much in short, Jim and Tom did the same as Milton did, and looked within the firm about 10 years ago for leadership.
Okay. And I mean, I don't know much about architecture firms, but sure, I would think for the most part, you'd want somebody to lead a firm who has been with the firm, who has a career with the firm, who has a loyalty to the firm, who has a passion for the business, and is going to be a leader for that firm because they know it. Okay.
They never really said it aloud, but we believe that one of the key factors in their decision-making to invite Lourdes and myself to ownership is that they believe that cognitive diversity would encourage good decision-making.
So you have no evidence that that was any part of their decision-making process, but you're going to say that that was. Okay. What do you mean by cognitive diversity?
Cognitive diversity is decision-making based on drawing on varying backgrounds.
Please do not tell me, either implicitly and certainly not explicitly, that cognitive diversity is determined by race or ethnicity. Because if that is what you think, I got some bad news for you.
To bring different solutions to a problem. They identified Lourdes because she is a proven leader in the profession for many years at all different type of levels.
Okay, well, then I'll back it up. Is that what you mean by background? That she has the experience, proven professional? Is that what you mean by cognitive diversity? Because everything preceding this, you'll forgive me if I was suspicious as to what you were saying just then.
She happens to have a Hispanic background.
Okay, I'm done. Nope. That's it. I don't need to hear anything else. I had hoped for something else. I was willing just then to walk it back because I was like, maybe I'm jumping the gun here. Maybe I'm just, no. What does her Hispanic background have to do with anything? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Unless your firm only serves clients in a particular culture, speaking a particular language, then maybe I could see the argument there. But something tells me from the photo you've provided that isn't really a focus or a necessity. So no, we're done. We're done. I guess I didn't need much else, but that's it. So his first example of workplace equity is giving leadership positions to people on consideration of their racial or ethnic background. Okay. All right. Well, there you go, guys. That's part 2 of How to Be a Jedi. Exceedingly similar to part 1 in all ways, shapes, and forms. I'm kind of surprised they even divvy them up between 4 different subjects, given that they don't sound any different in either points or evidence or solutions than the last. But who knows? Maybe part 3 will give us what it promises, and that's diversity. I can only hope. I'll give a couple minutes here for any questions or comments you guys might have, and then I will wrap this up. Thank you, Chicago Mike. I have a Hispanic background. It doesn't mean anything. It depends on the context. I don't know. I mean, it could mean something, but in regards to what he's talking about, cognitive diversity, if you're going to start telling me that the quality or nature of someone's thinking ability is entwined with their race or ethnicity, I think you've lost. And maybe my thinking is just cognitively dissonant, but I think when you start telling me that the quality of someone's thinking, mind, ideas, abilities, etc., can be valued on the basis of skin color or ethnicity, I think I know exactly where you're coming from. I don't really need any more information after that. I've got the gist. Once you've started down that road, by an inch or a mile, I know which direction the road doth lie. Let's see. Père de Bayard, stupid horses, you have no grip on that ice. I do not have a song to play about horse genitalia. Okay, that's Sinatra. Go somewhere else for that. Lexi Mads, I call my Venezuelan buddy Latinx because it annoys him. Brings some levity to his living nightmare. Yeah, I mean, there was an article NPR put out the other day where they were struggling over what term to use in honoring Hispanic Heritage Month, because Hispanic is problematic, but Latino is problematic, Latin's problematic, and Latinx isn't really accepted by the majority of the culture. What do we do? They were all wringing their hands and clutching their pearls. Birgid, MLK can power the whole world with how much he's spinning in his grave. No kidding. No kidding. Keeverdam, Scribely, he's referring to horse hockey. Stupid horses have no grip on that. See, I'm so flummoxed, I don't even remember my own catchphrases or references there too. So I apologize, Père de Bayard. I'll try to pick that up on the next time. Let's see. Hell Triangle, no white Jedi allowed. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, all things considered, I can't wait to find out what diversity means. How are they going to, if any of this to this point was them couching their words or policing their language when it comes to defining goals, outcomes, what they want, how they want to get there. Honestly, all things considered, I cannot wait for part 3. And that will come next Sunday, everyone, at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, for the next Sunday stream, where we will continue with the Jedi Temple, part 3, Diversity, from the American Institute of Architecture, Miami chapter. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can find me as a special guest host tomorrow on the AAA stream. Whose channel is that broadcasting from? I think Drunkle's. And I believe it starts at 2:30 Pacific time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know what that is, GMT. That's a Drunkle thing. If you're a fan of the AAA, you know when it is and where it'll be. And when I find out, I will tweet it out. But I'll be sitting in for Sinatra, who will be out of town or off doing other things tomorrow. And I'll be joining Drunkle and presumably Polly. And who knows what'll happen. So if you'd like to hear from me then, or Drunkle, or the AAA stream, that's tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, on, I think, Drunkle's channel. Watch my Twitter and Drunkle's for that. My Twitter can be found in the description below. But with that, everyone, thank you for joining me on this continuing odyssey to become a true Jedi. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. You guys really are, all of you, collectively, whatever your demographic, the best audience in the world. I hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday and your weekend. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.